We've got one more bitchin' abs spectacular here for you on Feature Please. A heinous trip at Warp 5. My name is Joseph.
And I'm still evil, your co-host, Peter.
Never weren't, my friend. Never weren't.
Yeah, that's the old joke, right? Like, oh, hey, there's our count. Wait, is he putting on a choir boy outfit? Wait, what? Are they doing community service? Uh-oh. We're the shitbags. We're the ones with facial hair.
First and foremost, once again, thank you to Ian. This new theme song we have rules. We got to find different ways to use it at some point. We'll find the right projects that we work on where we can bust it out again. There'll be other Mirror Universe episodes of DS9, so maybe we'll just use this for those. Plenty opportunities, hopefully. And wanted to have some chit chat about some other media. For, have our little 10 minutes of positivity maybe instead of 10 minutes hate.
That's ironic. Yeah, we're in the Mirror Universe, so now we gotta be positive.
Yeah, let's talk about things that are coming out that we like.
Before that, just side note out there, more and more buzz about Warner Brothers getting into Paramount's cookie jar.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not the entire Paramount library. Before we were talking that it was going to be Paramount minus Star Trek. Now it looks like it's going to be Star Trek only. It looks like that there's two separate IPs that Star Trek currently holds, and that's traditional Berman era and back, and all the secret hideout shit. Both entities have been placed under a holding company, which is going to be Star Trek Studios. And the rumor is that Warner Brothers is going to buy Star Trek Studios so that they are able to, and we've talked about this before, start putting out next-gen era material following the wake, I believe, of either Nemesis or actually setting it back with like the old burgundy, the traditional uniforms. And having full rights to everything means that anything that Kurtzman has mucked up, they can just wave away with a flick of the wrist because there's not going to be conflicting rights.
If this is what it's going to take, I'm hoping for the best. Warner Brothers has certainly been doing their best to marshal their existing resources. And I don't know if an acquisition is their way out, but this is the sort of thing that can save our franchise, right? Like someone else steps in, unifies the rights, disposes of all of the production staff, and puts it back in the hands of people who know how to make it. And those people are still out there, as we know. They just need to separate the wheat from the chaff.
Alex Kurtzman as their boss.
Yeah. So, there's even now, like there's some smart people working on stuff like Lower Decks and Picard season 3. And there's signs of life in Strange New Worlds. There's some things to salvage there. Okay, we can make do, but we need a whole new way of operating.
And I'll tell you what, man, Warner Brothers got some hot stuff coming down. Ever since I saw they cast Nathan Fillion for Guy Gardner in the Superman thing, I'm fucking ready to go on this new Superman movie. And I loved Suicide Squad, the second one, all the Peacemaker stuff. Like
James Gunn is good at making movies. He just is very good. All the Guardians movies were very well regarded. Weren't my cup of tea. Did not like them, but I get that people did.
Well, what is your cup of tea, Joe?
I will tell you. That is Fallout. The trailer came out here March 7th, 2024, the full trailer. It looks perfect.
Perfect.
Absolutely, beat for beat, shot for shot, exactly what I would want a Fallout television show to look like.
And how smart to put Walton Goggins right in the middle of it. That dude, the top comment on YouTube, and I agree with it completely, is that Walton looks like he's ready to carry this whole motherfucker on his back. I don't think he's going to have to, but that looks like the energy that this guy's bringing in, and I am fucking ready for it. They're bringing this out, April 11th?
Yeah, dumping the whole series at once, by the way.
I want to talk about that. I hate the idea of it because you put everything out and then there's this gun to your head to fucking watch it because it's just going to be spoilers and all this other bullshit. I'd rather them do it 1 week, an episode a week for a slow release and like a better experience. But my wife brought up a great point, and it's that with Westworld, which, raise your hand if you're tired of hearing me suck Westworld season 1's dick. Oh, unfortunately, I can't see any hands because it's radio, so you're going to have to hear about how fucking great it is and how much I love season 1. But the showrunner, right, Jonathan Nolan, had to deal with basically people guessing the plot and just picking stuff apart. And that's why season 2 came off as shitty as it was, is because fans would just figure this stuff out. And they stupidly started writing the show to avoid the things people had already figured out, instead of just letting people guess and who cares. But when you dump everything out at once, you destroy the ability for the fans to like take that shit apart. And like, I guess it makes it easier on the production staff, but still, man.
To me, the plot's going to be probably pretty elemental, and that's actually part of the charm. Like the Jonathan Nolan said, Fallout games have a pattern. You are the vault dweller. You emerge from the vault. You meet NPCs. You have an adventure. That adventure has a conclusion. That is what they decided to do.
Jonathan Nolan obviously never played Fallout 76.
That's true. But the lead actress apparently made a real point of saying, like, I have not only played the Bethesda Fallout games, I played the Interplay Fallout games. I get what we're doing here. I understand the lore. I understand the backstory. I understand the whole vibe of this universe.
So she watched all the Madam Web interviews and said, okay, I'm not going to do any of that.
Exactly. So, and, Walter Goggins doesn't have time for that, right? Like, a lot of these veteran actors who are in this, they're just going to take their cues from the production staff and the director and that sort of thing, because maybe they're not going to, this isn't a long-term project for them. They're older. They're out past the demo of having played video games. Sure. Totally understandable. But the lead actress is right in that spot where she can kind of be the translator to say, no, I'm a native of this. This is in my pop culture, ambit, and I am going to understand it so that I understand what I'm supposed to be doing as an actor to make this work on screen. And it seems like everyone nailed it. The visual design, the set design, the action, the sort of comic goriness of it all,
the Americana,
the post nuclear perma 50s Americana, the music, the use of, like, there's a Brotherhood of Steel versus the NCR, like, that's happening in the background, like, that's going to continue, like, it's an ongoing piece of the Fallout lore that already exists. Like, this is happening 200 years into the future. All of the other games have happened. Those things are part of the story. They really have, I think, dialed in to make this show exactly what you would want it to be. I am very much looking forward to it.
Todd Howard's super attached to it.
Yeah. Apparently he was a primary writer. So,
he's got to be doing something with this time, because they're certainly not releasing the next gen update for Fallout 4. And that's what I'm going to be interested in, the Steam charts, because as soon as this thing comes out, Fallout 4 and 76 are going to shoot up huge in the numbers of what's being played currently.
In New Vegas
too, sure. But there had been discussion that they were going to update the engine, the graphics for Fallout 4 for use on the current Series Xbox, Series X, and PS5, and that has not happened. And I'm hoping that they watch what happened with Edge Runners and the 1.5 update they did in Cyberpunk, and saw, hey, when you run this fucking series and it looks dope, people are going to go back and play your game, and what a great time to introduce new content and really sell them hard on it. So that's what I'm really hoping to see here.
Same. So, you may have to endure us talking a lot about the Fallout show, hopefully for good reasons, here in April. So strap yourself in. And then I want to make a recommendation to you, Peter, because I doubt you've seen this. FX's Shogun.
Oh, is that FX?
Yes.
I thought that was Hulu.
Well, it's on Hulu, and it's on actually Disney Plus as well, because it's a Fox production. Sure. This is so Shogun is a novel from the 70s. It was made into a miniseries in the 80s. This is essentially going back and giving another crack at it in 2024. I cannot recommend it enough to anyone who wants to watch a dense Japanese version of Game of Thrones in terms of, like, feudal politics and war,
Said the poison word. Game of Thrones, man.
I understand, like, that has a negative connotation for you because of the ending, but I'm talking about it like when it's at its best, right? When you're talking about great actors chewing scenery and doing feudal politics and melodrama. It's just excellent.
Let me wrap up season 6 of Sopranos, and we'll go from there.
But yes, my recommendation to everyone to watch Shogun. It rules. You should watch it. So now that we've had our 10 minutes of positivity here in the Mirror Universe, what are we
Time
watching
to talk
this week?
more things that rule.
Yeah.
Just positivity abound here in the Mirror Universe. We're going back in A Mirror Darkly Part 2. Season 4, Episode 19. This guy first aired the 29th of April, 2005. This is Mike Sussman doing the teleplay, story by Manny Cotto. Sussman did Part 1, did not know he was doing Part 2 originally, thought Manny Cotto was going to do Part 2. And then Manny's like, hey, why don't you do this for me, champ? And he was like, sure. Directed by Marvin Rush.
So do you remember the SNL skit, Stefan, the club kid?
Yes. It's got everything.
This episode has everything. It has bitches having knife fights. It has Simon Phoenix doing snap kicks. It's got space fights. It's got Archer close talking. It's got Gorn.
It's got disintegrations. It's got constitutions in badass space combat. It's got facial hair. It's got abs, and more abs. And hey, let's throw in a knife fight too. Here's an observation I just made while I was in the shower. This came out, as I said, April 2005. And Napoleon Dynamite came out in 2004.
Okay.
I can only assume that Scott Bakula had just watched Napoleon Dynamite, and that is the portrayal he decided to give Jonathan Archer. Is this fucking... Ugh!
Gosh!
You want to get into war? Idiot! Get down there and fix the engineering section, or I'm going to have a new engineer. Gosh! I got the pen out early here, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Kill Jonathan Archer in the first fucking scene and just have Hoshi running the fucking show and in a fight with T'Pol through this entire goddamn thing. Because this episode is damn near perfect if it was not for the fact that Scott Bakula, for the life of him, cannot portray evil.
He is very bad at coming off as genuinely threatening. The closest he gets is early on with T'Pol, where he is like right in her ear, like hovering around her, talking about how like he's going to execute her. And it's still, you know, the substitute gym teacher would feel like he has more authority than him. It is not good. He is definitely the worst part of what's happening here, but everything else is so good that it doesn't matter. And second, it kind of makes it that he dies like a bitch at the end, and Hoshi just like rolls out and takes over because he was a total fucking douchebag. Actually kind of pay off. He's not a visionary leader. He's not very good at being threatening. He kind of just like doofuses his way into victory. Hoshi just takes advantage of the situation and makes out with another guy. Makes yourself empress.
Let me try to rationalize this. Let me try to devil's advocate Scott Bakula here. I could see if sorry. I could see if there was a thought process that this John Archer has never been a captain. This John Archer is not really ready for command, and this John Archer has a lot of growing to do. Ergo, this John Archer should closely resemble the whiny bitch of season 1, who is unsure of himself and cracks under pressure and just feels like he's in over his head. Okay, maybe. Is this guy the same guy that you saw in season 1? No, but ineffective leadership is certainly there. What might actually be the real case is that Xindi War Archer, who is a space pirate and blowing people out of airlocks and being forced to be terrorist hunter Jack Bauer, Bakula could have been like, what if I make Archer evil and ruthless?
Mm-hmm.
And so when this episode came up, he might have had a fear of like, well, if I play this guy as like if I do too good of a portrayal, it's just going to feel like this is Zindi War Archer again, and I just did that, and that's going to be muddy water. So I need to make it radically different than season 3 Archer.
I guess. I mean, that is an explanation. I just think that he's always just played good guys.
But the guy's a great actor. Like,
but he never plays a bad guy. He never plays the villain.
I know, but listen, you could take anybody out of fucking community college. You could take you and me, and I mean, I guess we've played a lot of bad guys. Like,
we've experienced playing bad guys, Peter.
In role playing games or whatever, but still, like, I'm not a 6-digit fucking actor. Well, I don't have Marvin Rush and whoever else, David Stryden or whoever did the last one, directed me. Like, this Archer portrayal is so bad, it's a failure on so many fucking levels, and it's such a blemish on such great episodes that it's just astounding to me that a veteran actor like Scott Bakula couldn't lock this shit in.
I kind of understand why he couldn't, if he just is not experienced or comfortable with getting in the mindset of what brutality looks like, right? Like, you and I could pull it off because we've done it. If you sat me down and it's like, you got to play evil Jonathan Archer, I'm like, okay, well, if I got to be Jonathan Archer is a explorer. He is a diplomat. He is an inspirational, semi-political leader. Okay, so what does a mirror universe version of that look like? Well, I have to be savagely political, right? Like, I have to understand human weakness very, very intimately. I have to be able to break people, and make them have to serve me willingly because I have broken them so utterly. That's what you would do if you were evil Jonathan Archer. So you wouldn't threaten T'Pol by surrounding her and talking about an executor. You'd find every Vulcan on the ship. You'd put him into, like, the airlock and say, all right, T'Pol, here's what's going to happen. Every time you take a step out of line, I'm going to ship one of these out the airlock. That's what's going to happen. You're going to watch all of your countrymen die one by one until I am satisfied that you're doing your best. And whatever one you value the most is the first one in. That sort of thing.
You've talked to more people about this than I have. Is this Archer portrayal, like, widely regarded as bad? Or are we just making too big of a deal about it?
I don't think most people care because the rest of the episode just rules, as we have said multiple times. I mean, like, they're just too distracted by everything else to really maybe notice that Archer is not well portrayed by Bakula in this fashion. But again, in the end, the joke's on him, so it gets a big pass.
His portrayal is so bad, it makes me want to take the script for these scenes and see if I could do them better with my friend.
Yeah, we could. So the episode begins right where the previous one left off. The evil Enterprise has been destroyed. So we just have the away team that is on the Defiant, and they've got to try and get out of this situation that they're currently trapped in with the Tholians. They managed to get the engines working so that they can get thrusters. Slowly, Tucker gets everything online. Shields go up. They get off the docking clamps. Weapons come on, and sure enough,
Herculean task that somehow this thing has convinced me to watch 2 Star Trek Enterprise intros in a row.
Oh, absolutely!
All sorts of great stuff going on in this intro,
and they do a fantastic job in this episode of showing the order of magnitude of power difference between the 23rd century USS Defiant and the 22nd century ships around them. They are really 100 years in the future because they are one-shotting everything from this point forward. Nothing is a threat to the Defiant at all, aside from internal sabotage. And they do a good job.
It is excellent to watch what to you and I is an ancient ship just hammer the shit out of everything around it.
Yeah. And period correct sound effects. The ship looks great in CG.
Yes.
I mean, lovingly crafted. Obviously, they knew, like, this is the greatest homage we get to do. We get to put a Constitution class ship. We get to do the sound effects and the visual effects of the Constitution class ship, and it gets to be just super baller and one shot everything. Like, it's like a 12-year-old's wet dream.
Jump back to John Billingsley and Connor, whatever,
Connor Chenaria.
shitting on the episode. This thing is so blatantly like a labor of love from the production team. And again, everybody's wet dream, right?
Mm-hmm.
This script is basically built from the ground up to be able to put as many scenes as possible into Defiant sets so you could build as much Constitution class as possible. And you start getting into the space battles and shit where the ship's flying around hammering things. Between the sets and the fleet battles that you see in this, I haven't seen as much painstaking like production staff fan service in this as we have since Voyager when they showed Utopia Planitia.
Yeah, agreed. Or maybe Picard season 3 with the Enterprise D. But
well, we're talking, Berman era.
Oh, sure. But it's not just the bridge set, obviously. We have the briefing room set. We have the captain's quarters. We've got some
Pylon
hallways.
tubes.
Yeah. So all of it's just perfect looking. They definitely made a point of doing the lighting in a way that is reminiscent of TOS.
60s, yeah. Real groovy.
They even put everyone who was on the away team in a TOS uniform, with the reasoning being that their uniforms are gone because their ship exploded, so they don't really have a choice but to put on the clothes that they're fighting around the ship.
Yep.
Makes sense. And the sound effects are all right on. Background, action oriented, like the tactical display coming up. Every detail is right, and it's just so much fun to watch them in this unironically, right? Like, we know this is a 60s set, and it looks extraordinarily archaic relative to the set of the Enterprise, but they're acting like they're in the future. And there's just no comment about it except for, boy, these uniforms look different.
You're not the only one picking up on details, though. You got T'Pol, who is quite the bookworm in this episode. And the conflict becomes that Archer's intent is to take this ship and to go right into battle and save the day for the Empire and prove to everyone that you don't fuck with the Terran Empire. Otherwise, you're going to get the Defiant blast in your ass with future space lasers. And T'Pol's like, well, hey, we should take this thing back and harvest the technology. There's some push back and forth. She lays out that, this ship is supposed to be staffed by a crew of 400. They've got maybe 20 something. This is a silly idea. And that is going to be the crux of a larger concern as Archer finally gets around to rendezvousing with Terran Empire Starfleet. I believe it's Admiral Black.
Correct.
But before they have a chance to speak with any of those guys, they've got some housekeeping they need to do.
So the first antagonist of the episode is a Gorn named Slar. They really wanted apparently to find a way to bring the Gorn into Enterprise at some point previously, but it was going to break continuity, so this was their big chance. The best thing I think I can say about it is they tried. It's not an total miss of what they did with the Gorn. I like the way that the speech was very smoothly translated, and he was just still like growling into the translator or into the communicator when he was talking to them. And from a distance, the CG looks pretty good, and he's got like the caveman loincloth on, like it from TOS. But up close, when they're actually doing the fight scenes, it's just too early, right? You can't do it. It doesn't look good.
Especially after watching Strange New Worlds Gorn. I almost think they would have been better off just putting a guy in a paper mache mask again, man. Like,
just go for it, right? Like, don't do CG. Just go
there.
The whole bit.
You're there. Everybody who's watching by season 4, episode 19 on a dead end show knows where you're coming from and is going to respect the proper shout out to Gorn. So whatever. Napoleon Dynamite starts yelling at Reed, get this under control, get your teams out. These Makos, all the good Makos in this universe died a long time ago on their own infinity pit perilous bridge death fights.
There's
So
one good Mako left.
yeah,
We'll get to him.
Guys are going missing in hallways. Reed's told, get out there, start pounding dirt and figure it out. Reed's in a red uniform, red shirt, which ironic, he kind of buys it. Why do you think they put Archer in the green wraparound belt uniform?
That is the captain's, tunic from TOS. Shatner wore something like that all the time.
But Shatner was also in just the command gold a fair amount too. Like, what?
Sure.
Was there any rhyme or reason to that, or is it just kind of like? Because
it's an iconic look, it makes him stand out. I
guess. They start doing a crawl to try and figure out where this guy is.
Mirror Kelby gets got. We forgot that. Mirror Kelby's trying to fix things, and he gets like sucked up and gets his head bitten off or something. So Mirror Kelby does in fact die like a bitch here, as he deserves, because he sucks.
He does suck. We get a little bit of a backstory too while they're in the middle of trying to find the Scorn, because the Gorn's intelligent. It's the leader of the slave salvage crew that's been taking Defiant apart. We get this exposition when they start interrogating another member of the slave team, which those guys have just basically been in the cargo hold the whole time. At no point do they get like jettisoned or anything.
Yeah, they're just apparently there as hostages.
Sure, why not? You get a nice interrogation scene reminiscent of LA Confidential, where Wesley Snipes - Mayweather is working the dude over in a wife beater, like he's strapped to the chair and he's just getting his ass beat, interrogated. Oh no, yeah, Slar. He's a real rascal. He said he'd bite our heads off if we told on him, but yeah, he's totally sabotaging the ship. You gotta deal with him. And somewhere in that area, they start filling in the picture as to what's going on exactly with this war that the Terran Empire is currently in. And it's a rebellion, as you had hinted to earlier, that seems to be heavily involving Vulcans and some of the other slave races that the Terran Empire has pressed into service.
Eventually, Archer defeats the Gorn. He's pushed to personally confront Slar because he starts to see visions of himself as he imagines him from the normal universe. Because he and Hoshi have a lot of scenes together in this episode, and it includes them looking at their Starfleet records, which, by the way, if you pause it in high def, those things are
charming. That's the second paragraph head for John Archer's charming. I like his season 1 haircut more than his season 3 Caesar haircut.
The one for Hoshi does in fact have her entire life story on it, including how she dies. Like, that's not an exaggeration, which is in her memory alpha, if you want to look it up. And
how'd she die?
She died on the planet that Kirk was on when he witnessed the genocide of people because of the starvation issue. She was one of the people who was genocided. Her and her entire family. Womp womp.
Wow.
Yeah, real grim. Real dark. Real dark.
4 years of solid service to be genocided.
Yeah. But apparently she gets promoted to lieutenant commander at some point, so she had that going for her.
Sure. Not a fair trade, but that's life.
But this version of Archer, as poorly as he's portrayed for the most part, I do like the concept of an Archer that is been stymied in his career and he feels extremely inadequate as a consequence. Like, that's actually like an interesting motivation if he was actually like evil and someone you wanted to watch.
Again, the irony here, him having these hallucinations, again, it's Scott Bakula, so it's Quantum Leap. He's got his holographic friend there talking in his ear while other people are trying to talk to him. Dr. Samuel Beckett, well, this is the evil Leaper, and Al is alternate reality Archer. And I noticed that too. I was like, is this guy talking to himself effectively? But then I noticed that the hallucination Archer doesn't have the ooplets or the cross strap. It's not a Terran Empire uniform. So it's like, okay, yeah, he's got this belief of the other Archer, the successful Archer, the good guy Archer, like browbeating him on stuff. And as you're sitting there watching, you're like, okay, evil Archer's concept of good Archer is portrayed as a better version of evil than how he's portraying the actual evil Archer. Like, swap these guys out. Have evil Archer be the hallucination Archer, and then
I see where you're going with this. Yeah, I agree with you.
Have this Napoleon Dynamite character be his hallucination.
He beats the Gorn by having the gravity plating turned up to 20 Gs.
Well, hold on. You're cutting Johnny Rico out here.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
He goes out in the hallway with Reed. He goes, all right, let's pull a Scooby-Doo here and split the gang up. You guys are going to go down the hallway. Reed, you're going to get caught with the oldest fucking trick in the book, which is I'm going to leave the... You're going to get die-hearted, basically. I'm going to leave the walkie-talkie out in the hallway, and as you go over there to investigate it, the Gorn, like, detonates some C4 and red shirts Reed, so that whole Mako team is gone. Archer's part of the party is him and a Mako that's a dead ringer for Johnny Rico, Casper Van Dien. Johnny Rico goes down the hallway further. The Gorn jumps down, Slar jumps down and starts fighting. Also, these Makos, why are they not carrying EM pistols? Why has everybody got the goddamn squirt guns?
It is an odd choice. None of them have a sidearm, evidently.
Nobody's allowed to carry a cool gun other than the big phase pistol squirt guns. He gets roughed up a little bit, and then the Gorn jumps on top of Archer, and Johnny Rico forgets that he's holding a gun and starts trying to pistol whip the Gorn repeatedly, which is like, man, if you're in the evil empire, like, you should know you just shoot
them. Like, what? He's right there. It's point blank. He's clearly separated from your boss. There's no danger. Why are you hitting him with the butt of your rifle?
Maybe these guns just don't have stun, because if I had a pistol with stun on it, I would just stun everything. It's Star Trek. You just shoot your boss a bunch. I had 3 seasons of bosses getting shot. And then the dude, like, Slarg gets up and grabs Johnny Rico and, like, rams his head into a wall. Some pretty brutal shit. And then he's like, oh, hey, Archer, I'm going to come get you with my bad CGI bullshit. And Archer's like, bring it. And looks down. I love all the badges and all of the signage on the ship is like the 60s, that etched plastic door placard.
Molded plastic. Yeah.
And I think this is the first time we've ever seen grav plating used offensively.
Yeah, that was actually very clever, right? Like, make this spot 20 times normal gravity. Now the dude can't move. A couple guys come out of the turbo lift with guns, and Archer just takes one and shoots him a bunch of times while he's on the ground. How about that? An effective strategy.
Minor plot hole. Slar had sabotaged the vessel and, like, hidden the precious doodads that let them warp, and they kill him without finding out where the doodads are. But
yeah, cut 2, ships at warp. They're cooking. Like, doesn't matter. Who cares? They fix it.
Turns out he had them in his back pocket the whole time.
And the Defiant rolls up to where the battle fleet is apparently supposed to be, but the battle fleet is no longer there because it is only one ship left, the Avenger, who is apparently now being captained by the previously mentioned Admiral Black, a character we've never seen before in the normal universe, and they're being attacked by...
That was Johnny Sack.
Johnny Sack? Oh, from Sopranos. Okay, like... Wait, who is that? Oh, okay, no, yeah, actually, I kind of see it. Okay.
Well, hey, listen, if they let Bobby Bacala and Joey Peeps in Enterprise, why wouldn't they let Johnny Sack?
I mean, it makes sense, right? But sure. They don't have another designated Goomba episode, so
that's why he has to be an admiral. And what better place to have a gangster admiral than the Mirror Universe?
Very true. Could just put a fedora on his head. It would be perfect. And we also see as apparently the first officer on this vessel, Saval, Mirror Saval, who's got these full Spock goatee going, right? And I love Saval's characterization in this episode. Actually, this is an actor who understood the assignment, Whereas Saval is extremely self-assured and very in control and very decisive.
And
Mirror,
somewhat ruthless.
Mirror Saval is a weak, unsure, timid man who does not want to be involved. Very good. Liked it. But Defiant shows up just in time, one shots all the ships, but lets one of the Andorians go. Does destroy the Vulcan ship after T'Pol asks not to. So T'Pol getting increasingly bad at showing that she's a traitor. And
surprised to see that the Vulcans even have ships. The timeline here, first contact was 200 years ago, right? No, couldn't be.
No, not 200, more like 100.
Would have made sense for Earth to have forced the Vulcans to decommission or have destroyed all of the Vulcan High Command starships in battle. I don't know, but clearly, you just wanted to make it abundantly apparent to everybody that, yes, this is a ship full of Vulcans, and yes, Defiant did just one-shot it with all hands lost. Fuck you, T'Pol. I love the smirky look on Hoshi's face when that ship gets blown up. So the timeline here, how long has Defiant been in this mirror universe?
I don't think for very long. I don't think they say like how exactly long it's been there, but obviously it's the ship had only been started to be disassembled, so it's probably a matter of weeks.
Because all the previous crew bodies, they're not like decomposed skeletons.
Yeah, they're just kind of still hanging out. Like they're not rotting, so can't be that long.
You could say, all right, well, maybe all those compartments were exposed to space, so they didn't have a chance to start rotting. Fortuitous, though, that they were able to get a hold of that. They fly in, they fuck everybody up. Admiral Black is in command of the Avenger. There's a lot of NX vessels, it would seem, in this time, in this mirror universe.
Yeah, apparently there's at least 7, I suppose. So it makes sense though with a more militarized Starfleet, they're going to build the ship that's the most capable. They're going to speed run to battle
also,
cruisers.
They didn't have the Vulcans hamstring them. If anything, the technology that they pillaged from the Vulcans would have allowed them to advance things faster. Do we see transporters at all?
No.
Interesting. I wonder. Admiral Black comes aboard with his detail. Archer, you've done a great job. Great things are becoming your way. We'll see about getting you into command. Archer's got arguably better evil good guy Archer over his shoulder. Like, they're not going to give you it.
Better evil good guy Archer. I like that. Okay, yeah.
It's more convoluted, yet it's an accurate situation here. And Archer talks himself into a little bit of mutiny because he does not believe that he will ever be given the correct respect. Perhaps he has correctly identified that Admiral Sack is going to take the ship and hand it to the Emperor and say that he has done it. Who did he send his backup, his insurance message to?
Admiral
Black. So this is Black all the way.
Mm-hmm.
Gardner sounds familiar because Gardner, who in proper continuity replaced Forrest.
Correct.
Hey, I've already got a ship here. I'm already in command. Like, oh, well, hey, slow down there. And this is what highlights the split and decision that we had talked about before, where Archer wants to take this thing right into battle. Starfleet wants to take it back, pull it apart, and, apply these future technologies to all of its vessels. And Archer decides to make it a little executive decision. So he looks at his nearest accessible Wesley Snipes and says, no, you're mistaken. I already am a captain. And also, you're relieved of command because I'm calling Praxis. Old Simon, what's his name? Simon Friendly?
Simon Phoenix.
Snap kicks this unsuspecting crewman standing in front of him in the back of the head, and one of the most badass kicks I think I've ever seen in all of Star Wars. And that includes
Star Wars?
Picard season 1. Yeah, absolutely Star Wars, Star Trek, any of the Battlestar Galactica.
It doesn't matter. It's amazing kick. It transcends all franchises.
Yeah, I can't tell you a better snap kick in any science fiction property that I've seen. Blade Runner, I don't think there was anything in there that's going to come close. Say what you will about Mayweather as a character. The guy knows how to kick people.
Listen, when we called it last week, I forgot that he in fact snap kicks someone like Simon Phoenix, that he completely fulfills the trope. It's pretty good. Andy Montgomery must have practiced that one, right? Like, I am going to snap kick this guy into the dirt and then stand astride him with my gun at his back like an absolute G. Like, none of the Makos in the Mirror Universe are any good because their power is totally focused on Mayweather to be the uber Mako, right? Like, yeah. That's why they're in combat ineffective.
So here's your background info. There's no such thing as boomers in Mirror Universe. All of the previously designated boomers are in fact now just augments. That's what I need to see. I need to see the fight between Mirror Universe Mayweather and Atom Smasher.
Things that we could have had if this was a whole season arc, but didn't get.
So then you got Admiral Black. Like, oh my god, did he just snap kick my dude in the head? And Archer's like, I've been waiting to use this disintegrate setting on this phaser, and like quick draws him like it's North Star and blasts him, and we get a really good disintegration too. That's like the best second and a half of Star Trek you're going to find in any episode. A snap kick and a disintegrate. It's excellent.
So here we go. Archer is making a play for the top. He has made the decision that Starfleet and the Emperor have failed the Empire, and it's time for the Defiant and the crew of the NX-01 and the Avenger to unite and stake a claim for the entirety of the Empire. So they're going to head to Earth, and they're going to go ahead and just do this thing. Before that happens, T'Pol and Saval have a conversation. This is where we finally get Saval's characterization as his mirror version being a weaker, timid, introspective, not wanting to be involved. But T'Pol is definitely on the Spock train, right? Like from the Mirror episode from TOS of this entire enterprise that we are witnessing is illogical. It cannot be sustained. And we have evidence as a consequence of this computer from this other universe that there's another way forward. And we need to seize that opportunity because we know it doesn't have to be this way. And her intention is we will download all of the technical specifications of the Defiant and give it to the rebels. And then I'm going to blow up the Defiant so that it cannot fall into the hands of the Empire. And that's going to be how we turn the tide. Good plan, honestly.
She says, I know Archer.
Not a lot of people to stop her.
I know Archer. I know that if he succeeds, he is going to take the Defiant to Vulcan and he is going to nuke it from space because that's who he is. We don't have an option in this. And I need you to sack up and get on board with the plan to stop him because this is going to be our only chance. Do you think that Archer would have ultimately gone after the Vulcans?
Maybe. And the next scene informs that a little, right? So this is the first bedroom scene with Archer and Hoshi.
You know, when you said that they were calling her, putting the hoe in Hoshi, and I saw that a little bit in the Wikipedia, the Memory Alpha, I was like, man, I don't, her sleeping with Forrest and then, hooking up with Archer. That's not that bad. This episode, they put their foot on the gas. Like, she is Miss Pillow Talk, like 9 out of 10 scenes.
Yeah, she's constantly having sex with someone in this episode. Between their pillow talk and her moans, Archer comes up with the plan of taking all of the non-humans and putting them on the Avenger and separating them out because he doesn't trust them. I think he's not likely to. If you're asking me, is T'Pol right? I don't necessarily think so because he is hesitant to lump Phlox in with that. He has a bit of rationality to his perspective that does not suggest just out and out desire for genocide. I don't think that I can say 100% either way.
I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think that
T'Pol, yeah, like T'Pol's actions are going to get Archer to the point where he's going to want to do that. Yeah,
right, and that's, again, it's the mirror universe. In this mirror universe, I think that T'Pol's gut is wrong, and that she has flawed logic herself. I mean, on top of the fact that she's evil in her own ways, that her instincts are wrong, her logic is flawed, and that it's her actions that she perpetually takes that ultimately force Archer into a position when they're in direct conflict. Because I think if Archer was as anti-Vulcan in this universe as he is in main universe, because there's a role reversal, right?
Yeah.
Real world, the Vulcans had the upper hand over humanity and kind of abused it and created bad blood there. Mirror universe, the Vulcans have already been subjugated by humanity, and Archer's had the privileged life over them. He would have never made her his first officer. There had been plenty of other options, and he says, "Oh, I don't really trust Reed, but there's other options." He cuts her a lot of slack, and in this one, he's finally like, "Listen, I need you to do your job." But like, what's her job? What's she so spectacular at? You don't see it. I think she sows the seeds of her own destruction, and I think that's appropriate for her own flawed mirror universe existence.
After Archer's kind of feeling out what to do with Phlox, Phlox is interdicted by T'Pol and Saval while on the Avenger after being lured there under false pretense of a medical emergency. And they try to recruit him into the same conspiracy. So they're trying to get all the remaining alien members of the crew to effect a mutiny / sabotage of the Defiant. They try to get Phlox on board, who's very evil, by essentially saying, hey, if you do this and save the Emperor, you'll get your own medical facility where you can be Dr. Mengele all day long, and also infinite bitches. And apparently in the mirror universe, unlike normal Phlox, who's got like several wives and a very fulfilling sex life, this guy is desperate for women. So
I was just going to say he likes women, in real universe, he already got to work at an evil facility, which was called Station 12, and had his jump to conclusion.
Can I get an asteroid with diseases on it?
And a human-shaped tube. I'll take the pain chamber we were working on, I'll put it in there, and I'll pump it full of drugs, and then I'll jump through a neutrino rift, and I'll work at the other cold Station 12 and show them all my cool tricks. Yeah, I was just like, yeah, okay, so Mirror Universe, Phlox actually likes women, because everything I've seen in the other one, between jump to conclusion, special friend, and being deathly afraid of down
Cutler.
to fuck Cutler, and then also down to fuck T'Pol. They bend it. And it's an interesting line to play that T'Pol taps several times, which is that, are you truly loyal to the Empire? Because Terran Empire rules through a system of fear. And she can't just say, hey, let's become rebels ourselves. But she can say, look at Archer. Archer is a terrorist now. So we're actually being good Terran soldiers by fighting Archer because he wants to take down the Emperor. And I'm just telling you guys, let's be Emperor loyal, right? And that's an easier pill for people to swallow, especially like with Phlox, when you're like, hey, also you'll be bribed with being rich beyond your wildest wishes. Okay, great. It's silly that they're able to put this conspiracy together and not a single person rats them out, but that's what you need for the show. So they get Phlox in on their little plan. Defiant is warping back to Earth. We get a nice conversation with Admiral Gardner, who is portrayed by John Mahan, who you might remember as Mr. Policeman, because in every single other piece of media, this guy is some various level of a police officer.
It works. I see it.
It does. I recognized him from LA Confidential. He's the chief of police that finally promotes Guy Pearce reluctantly.
And Archer's starting to make his threats. He tells him stop. Doesn't really go anywhere. Just kind of like sets the table for what happens next. T'Pol, when she was escorted off of the Defiant, did in fact get a copy of the database onto a 60s data card, plastic data card. And we pick up the last piece of the episode with the most unnecessary knife fight of all time.
How dare you?
I didn't say I didn't like it.
It was very necessary.
Let's set the scene. First, Julian Blaylock's like, this episode hasn't had enough of my abs in it, so I want a whole I want a catwalk down the hallway of my abs, of which Manikota said, yes, ma'am. And so that was in the episode. She gets to the turbo lift, and it's random Mako and Hoshi, who was also like, Linda Park was like, my abs have also not been in the episode very much. I've been shrouded in darkness while, moaning with Scott Bakula, but abs. All right. Okay, cool. So we got them all. They found out that she took the database. They want it back. They're all too close. So, of course, T'Pol gets to do the standard roundhouse kick your weapon away, punch you in the solar plexus, knock you down maneuver to the Mako, leaving Hoshi the only one up. So she just gets a knife out, and T'Pol gets a knife out, and they just start being really catty towards each other while trying to stab each other.
Also conveniently forgetting that Vulcans are crazy strong, and she should have been able to like crush her skull with a pinch.
I mean, they kind of demonstrate that by the fact that T'Pol does ultimately effortlessly dispatch Hoshi. Like, just basically clocks her clean and knocks her down. Like, yeah. But, plenty of abs, and also them talking about how many people they've had sex with in between attempts at stabbing each other. Only for the most perfectly anticlimactic thing to happen is that after T'Pol has put Hoshi back in her place, and she's getting away, the Mako actually just stands up and shoots her.
And that marks the first time in 2 episodes that the Makos have been able to actually shoot a single warm-blooded thing, or cold-blooded for that matter. So good job, buddy, shooting T'Pol in the back.
They hollow T'Pol back to Defiant and have an extremely ineffective interrogation with her. While this is happening, the rest of the plan goes into place. Phlox has to apparently disassemble a key part of the power couplings to disable the Defiance of the Avenger, which has been taken over by Saval and a Orion and an Andorian. Like, those are the 3 guys on the bridge.
Speaking of, where the fuck is Shran at? If you're going to bring Suval in on this, and I get Jeffrey Combs as a big presence, and I really appreciate in this episode that you get so much of the smaller characters. Like, I'm sorry, Hoshi, Mayweather, they've been marginalized so bad the past 2 seasons. I'm very happy that they're able to get to be as prominent in these 2 episodes as they have been.
Yeah, that was actually explicitly part of the reason why they knew from the beginning they were going to have Hoshi be on top at the end, because it's the revenge of your side characters. They're the main characters now.
And they do a great job with it. It just goes to show that these characters were written poorly from the jump. They were conceived of poorly. And there wasn't a lot there to really ever work with. And when you do these jokey side characters, they somehow come out better than the real things.
Phlox is disassembling things. Oh, I think Shran wasn't in this because he's in the finale. I think that was actually in the last week's Memory Alpha, by the way. But he does his thing. Trip finds out about it. Trip, who's just quietly very effective all episode, doesn't really have any plot. He just manages to make the Defiant work, even though he's working on something 100 years beyond his, his skills.
It's like I'm a steamship. I'm on a steamboat, and I've just wandered onto the first, onto the NX-01.
Yeah.
And instead of getting any sort of sympathy from Archer, again, just everybody is so mean-spirited and needlessly cruel to the other people. Is just like, get it working, or I'm going to get a new chief engineer. Fuck you. I don't care about this ridiculous situation you've been thrust into. Get this hypertech to work. What Phlox is doing, He's taking apart panels. He's talking to Suval. He's like, these diagrams don't match at all. And Suval's like, just keep looking. Because I know that somewhere deep in this conduit that you're searching in, you're going to find what you're looking for. And that's the chance to get a space pipe upside your head.
Yes. In a fight that could only end one way. Trip comes down. Phlox is in the middle of sabotage. They have a fight. Back and forth. Head wounds being traded. But sure enough, what should Trip find on the ground to turn the tables, to ensure his victory?
It's a briefcase full of space pipes.
Just a fucking whole bag of space pipes where he just pulls the first one out and it's boom. It's wham bam, thank you, ma'am. It's over. Fight is over. Phlox is down. Trip reassembles the thing. Saval's plan fails because the Defiance systems all come back online, and the Avenger gets savagely destroyed by the Defiance. Saval goes down literally just yelling into the void. It's actually pretty brutal. It's pretty metal.
Yeah.
And it right after he destroys it, it's Archer collapsing on the bed, having just fucked Hoshi again. Which, you know what? Nice of Hoshi to let him have one last thrill before inevitably betraying him and taking command of the Empire, right? Like, she's not all bad.
She's not. And again, they had already dated. There's history there.
Yeah.
There's
he was good to her after she swapped sides, you know?
There's a lot of not only swap sides, but swap sides and then try to initially knife him.
Mm-hmm.
Very understanding. Reed is never confirmed for dead, despite being blown up. And I liked Phlox's comment on that was like, I suspect if he dies, there'll be several discrete parties celebrating his death. Archer is poisoned, but it doesn't actually show him like, laying there with X's over his eyes. T'Pol, who was detained, I don't think she's ever killed. They left a lot of room to continue this mirror universe story. Obviously, if they're ever to do an Enterprise reunion, they should not bother telling any more Enterprise stories. It should be mirror universe.
What happened next stories. In the mirror universe? Yeah,
that's what I need this cast to get back into. But yeah, like Hoshi, how competent is she? She's a great knife fighter. They've alluded the entire time that maybe there was something a little special, a little extra about her. And she's just kind of been the snake in the grass through this whole thing, letting, doing the traditional realpolitik. I'll let the big dummy stumble through all the traps. And then at the end, when it's time to grab the crown, I'll stab him in the back, take it. We find out that she's not operating alone. She's been making new friends with Simon Phoenix.
I mean, once she saw that snap kick, she had to know. That's my guy.
Yep. That's how I take over the Empire.
Mayweather sees an opportunity when he sees it like, I get to be like the baby daddy for a savage empress. Snap kicking everyone into oblivion seems like a good life.
So Defiant returns to Earth. Meanwhile, the rebellion's still going, right?
Yeah. Technically, yeah. But I mean, Defiant can just one-shot everyone in the ships and won't be rebellion for very long, right? Like, you don't need to know what happened next. You kind of just know what happened next. And you just end the story with Hoshi rolling onto the bridge and saying, I'm in charge, or I'll just start destroying every Earth city one by one. Roll credits. Good spot. Don't need any more.
Great spot.
Yeah.
It was, that's the kind of fun you can have with these what ifs. It's not really what if because all this becomes canon for all the mirror universe stuff that's to follow. And just a nice chance to give all of the side characters at this point an opportunity to spread their wings, let people ham it up, let Scott Bakula embarrass himself with a lot of bad acting, build some cool sets, have some great space battles where you get to see this old Constitution class being an apex predator, just wrecking everything around it. Again, John Billingsley, Connor Trinneer, like fuck off. This was great. Thank you very much, everybody who was involved in giving me this.
Absolutely. It's even making fun of Scott Bakula in this is fun in its own right? Like his poor performance holds nothing back. Everything is cool. The TOS details are cool. The fact that Hoshi and Mayweather get to be primary characters is great. The continued sort of exploration of what a mirror universe version of people look like as actual opposite, yet still reminiscent of their personality, runs through to even the new characters you meet, like particularly in the case of Saval, but also like with T'Pol kind of being an angry revolutionary rather than a scientist. Great. Fantastic. Just a lovely treat. It's pretty obvious why these 2 episodes are so well regarded by Enterprise fans. But Peter, I've been waiting for this moment. What if I told you that my 2 favorite episodes of Star Trek ever made are the next 2 we're going to do?
Well, I'd say we're going to go to episode 420.
Oh, we are.
Season 4, episode 20, Demons, written by Manny Kono. Directed by LeVar Burton.
Don't worry.
In the picture, I see none other than RoboCop.
You sure do.
A xenophobic faction of humanity threatens to undermine talks to form a new coalition of planets. Part 1 of 2.
What if I told you that the final boss of Enterprise is humanity itself? It's a perfect way to end this show. This and its follow-up are the true season finale and series finale of Enterprise. It was constructed to be this so. It is a perfect way to end the show. It is by far the best Enterprise episodes. And in my estimation, in my humble opinion, these are my favorite episodes of Star Trek ever made.
High praise. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I wanted to review this show with you specifically so we could get to RoboCop. Okay, so
and not that Star Trek Into Darkness RoboCop. We need that 2005 RoboCop.
Oh yeah, this is Peter Weller when he still had a lot of his power remaining. You know.
All right, we'll see.
All right, see everyone next week, and also some shilling real quick. We have a lot on Patreon right now. We've got reviews of movies. We've got reviews of Wrath of Khan. We've got reviews of Lower Decks, and we'd love it if you subscribed on Patreon. Second, if you haven't shared the podcast in a while, if you haven't reviewed it before, we would appreciate any kind of engagement you can give us on that end. Go rate it on your podcast app of choice. Put it on social media somewhere. Talk about it on Reddit. I don't care what you do, but it's always nice to try and bring in new folks. We're trying our best. We use some SEO terms on the Bound episode. Got some folks on YouTube, but it's hard charge. It's a hard road to hoe out there, and we'd appreciate your help. And as always, if you want to reach out, you can email us at VeedYourPlease@gmail.com, or you can reach us on our Facebook for Veed Your Please, or our Discord. Happily give you the link to that. All you have to do is email or reach out on Twitter. I'm at Intern of Doom on Twitter. Thank you, everybody. See you next week.